Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast brought to you by Jack and Coke. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got my co-host, Sam Jesse. Sam, I feel like we just did this.
We did about 24 hours ago.
Yeah, that's right. We brought College Football Monday to you guys last night. We had Cam Underwood from State of the U on with us. I think he was awesome. Gave really good perspective on Miami. He's pumped. He's jacked up for the Friday game.
As he should be.
Yeah. And we're actually, when we go into our Miami preview later tonight, it probably won't be as detailed for a number of reasons. But one, because we just kind of previewed it last night. So if you want to hear more about the Miami game, what they're thinking about their season, make sure you check out that. We're going to cover Rutgers tonight. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to get into Miami, all the fun stuff, beers. But first, Sam, I need a cheers out of you to kick this thing off.
Well, you might hear it in my voice as we go on. I'm a little under the weather today, so I'm not drinking a beer, but I will cheers to I know this week might not go well, but it's a fresh week, and I think it is really important that this team learns from the previous games, but also understands that there's 0-0 in the ACC, and there's a lot of teams in worse spots in the ACC, and you just kind of have to move on. You can't let, you can't let Vanderbilt and Rutgers beat you 2 more times.
Yeah.
You got to move on. This Miami game is really tough, but after that, you have a string of winnable games, a few of them at home. Like, you got to move on mentally and physically. You gotta prepare to get better. So just moving on, drink some water, maybe a cup of coffee, take a cold shower, be good to go.
All right, bud. Cheers to that.
I even forgot my water bottle. That's how today's going. So,
well, when we play the voicemails, you can make a run for your water bottle, because we got some good ones this week. You'll look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen. News and notes: Tyrod inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was down in Blacksburg. I think they put him on a private jet. He was looking good, feeling good, and that was cool to get him in there. Well deserved. And I wish we could have honored him by winning the game, but that was a neat thing for him.
Probably cool. There's probably a fair amount of those Rutgers fans were Jets fans. So there you go. That's pretty cool.
That's true. You know what? And he also played for the Giants. So
he's got them both covered. And the Bills, in case there's any upstaters.
Right. Yeah. Depth chart injury update. Jennings did not play. Weird, because he did practice last week, and I thought he was a full go, but he didn't play in the game. Tootin played well, was in the knee brace. Drones got stepped on during the game, but did stay in. Ganem was out, and he'll be out for Miami as well. Just saw that on the timeline, courtesy of Colby Crawford, hoping to get Ganem back soon. Chaplin left the game in dramatic fashion, but came back and played. So I assume he's okay. He was practicing today, so that's a good sign. Kamari Copeland is also out for Miami. It's another thing I saw on Colby's timeline. Lawson was in a blue jersey today, and he played just 4 snaps against Rutgers before it looked like he might have re-injured himself.
Yeah.
So a little bit of depth issues at linebacker right now.
Yeah, I think linebacker is the only position where you're worried depth-wise. Everyone else is more hurt, not injured. Like, nobody's out here with serious injuries, but these guys are just pretty beat up, and they've had 4 physical games and not a lot of break. I mean, 2 of the teams that they've played, Marshall and Rutgers, both had a bye week before they played the Hokies. So it's fair to say that Tech might feel a little beat up and bruised right now.
Yeah, and we don't get that bye until after the Stanford game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really needed after that.
Yeah, no, it will. It will. And I think that's overall good spot to have a bye, but for right now, you'd kind of like it. Now or last week, probably. Yeah,
a tune-up before Rutgers probably would have been nice, but here we are. I already talked about CFB Monday. The pick'em leader is Fitted Jones, 27-3. What a record, man. That is outstanding.
That's kind of crazy.
Hokies Stegui is in second. And we had a guy who was perfect last week, 10 out of 10. Sean D08, and he's tied for 3rd place right now. I'm 21-19. I'm down probably in 22nd place. I think I was 4-6 this past week. I'm going to pick them that I do every year. I've been doing it for over a decade, and we pick 25 games a week. So you don't get to choose the games you pick. It's similar to the ESPN one. It's just more games. I'm currently tied for 4th place at 125 people. So
Nice.
I'm having a nice year picking games. I'm a little over 500 in this one, but in the larger pool, I'm doing really well, and it's my best year in a while, and I'm excited about it. I have come in second out of like 68 in that pick'em in the past, and I used to be like better at picking games like 5-6 years ago. So I'm having a good run this year so far.
The drive for 25 units is not off to a stellar start. I think we're like just over 2 units down after week 4. So, we're gonna need some winners this week. I got some juicy ones though.
Gut check weekend.
So, yeah, gut check weekend. We're gonna be on the couch for all of it. So I post them all on my Twitter at Sam Saturday. It's the pinned tweet thread. We keep going.
How many picks do you generally make in a weekend? Like that you're actually gonna play?
8 to 13-ish.
Okay.
I usually don't get too much. I mean, I have actually somewhere over here, I have a lot of my notes for stuff and looking at prices and all sorts of stuff.
You're still putting in the work.
Yeah, well, we're always putting in the work. The work is not the question. The work has never been the question.
Right work, wrong outcome.
My process is perfect. But see, the issue with gambling is process over results does not work.
No, it doesn't.
But you keep going, and it's been kind of there's been some funny results, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the show.
Make sure to like the video if you're watching on YouTube, and of course, subscribe to the channel. We are getting closer and closer to 3,000 subscribers. I think we're like 50 away right now. It's been a good week of listens already because Pat and Billy's show did really well. Rutgers fans seem to be very online, and I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to have to eat some crow as we get into this Rutgers recap, apparently. And you'll hear some of that on our call. But people heard what I had to say about the Rutgers quarterback, and he had a good game. And we'll get into more of the details of that after we go through the game recap. We spotted them 14 points with the help of a fumble and a turnover on downs. Rutgers got a safety and another touchdown after the half to make it 23-7 entering the 4th quarter. And we were lucky it was that close at that point. 2 missed field goals for Rutgers. They fumbled inside of our 10, but we fought back. We actually got the game tied at 23 after a couple of 2-point conversions. Really impressive stuff there. But Rutgers went right down the field with that long play, kicked a field goal. And as I said last night, it was too little, too late, very similar to Vandy. And, it was the slow start by the the breakdown by the defense. It was rough, man. I cannot believe we had a carbon copy of that game.
Yeah, it's, I mean, that's a really tough game. I think, giving them a 31-yard spot, like after that fumbled punt that's really tough for your defense who just came out and made a stop. And then
do you want me to play the voicemails? Give people a nice broad picture of what happened here.
I guess so, because dude, I'm almost like Pete. We've talked about this for days and days, and like I'm almost at a loss for words at this.
I know
with this game.
I know,
like
I'm a loss for words, but we're about to talk for at least 50 minutes, so we'll see if we can come up with something. All right, here are the voicemails.
Well, Tootie, my car broke down on 81 on the way to the game, so I will gladly take that L and sacrifice if it means we get a Hokie victory today. So we'll see what our boys can do.
Same first half BS. Losing the line of scrimmage. Can't capitalize on any momentum. Defense gets turnovers, gets a big stop, missed field goal. 3 and out, punt, turnover, safety. Loser at right tackle. Lucky not to be down 3 scores going into halftime. And do we need to talk about quarterback? Has he developed at all under the staff?
Pete, you blew it. You absolutely blew it. You put your chips in, and you lost big time. Gallican-Mimus tore up the secondary.
I desperately think Bowen needs to be gone. I'm not satisfied at all.
This is another one-score game. I don't know. Drones, I feel like he's lost his confidence. I feel like he looks scared.
I'm amazed that they came back in the 4th quarter. I'm amazed that they tied it. And probably my tune would have been different if they actually came back and win. But, I mean, we still have problems overcoming mistakes.
An embarrassment. A national laughingstock. Frank celebrates double zeros meme has a new sibling. The desperate backward chuck out of bounds safety. Hoorah.
Tootin making plays because it's Tootin and he can break tons of tackles. He's been the bright spot by far. Another 3 touchdown, 100-yard game. He's at what? 300 plus 2 touchdown games in a row, something like that.
Horrible game. Turnovers, getting bullied by a bottom tier team from another conference. And after 3 quarters, I want to burn the program to the ground for making me believe originally. And then we finally find some offense and defense in the fourth quarter, and my hope returned only to get kicked in the nuts.
This was rough. This was a really rough loss. It was probably made even rougher because they actually came back and tied it and gave us a sliver of a chance that maybe we might pull it off, but no, it wasn't there.
For God's sake, can we at least show up? I mean, we got Tyrod there. We got all of our Hall of Fame class there, and we're just laying an egg.
I don't really care anymore. If you want to fire everyone, if you want to keep everyone, I don't care. I don't give a shit. All I know is that I want to win football games, and this sucks.
I think I've reached rock bottom. And I've thought some things and said some things that are just quite out, not godlike. I'm trying to think of where we went so wrong and why we have developed this mindset of, we almost won, but we didn't. But that's okay. But now I'm here to say it's not okay. We have to win damn games. Next time I call, it'll be from the inside of a Colt. Thank you very much. Go Hokies.
I'm watching you, Pete, from across the room. Just after the interception, let me describe to you your behavior in real time. There's 1 minute and 16 seconds left on the clock. Your jaw is frozen. Your mouth slightly ajar. You're shaking your head. You're now putting your head into your hands and trying to pretend that you are combing your hair to the side, but you are not. Now your hands are in prayer. Now you're shaking your hands as if you're writing something in the sky and screaming the word asshole, asshole, asshole.
Well, car is loaded up on the trailer. Likely a bad fuel pump. At least I got the spare part in the garage at home. Parents are fighting at the house as well. Just watching, I feel like we are watching Virginia Tech become a G5 program with an SEC fan base.
Wow. All I can say is, wow. That was a long collection of voicemails. Yeah. I got the most calls I've gotten all year. I tried to use as much audio as I could. And if you listen to it on our pod where I have the Drake song, as you can see on the screen on YouTube, I've got the hotline number and the hotline bling. Yeah, Sam's doing the dance image because I play that song in the background. And like, when the guy was going into that part of like, I've said some things that are not godlike and I'm ashamed. He was kind of having like a therapy moment, a come to Jesus moment, if you will. There's a point in the song where it really goes down into like a soft thing at the end, and that fit perfectly into that section. So on the pod, it'll all kind of make sense. And it was like the full length of the song of all these voicemails. I love getting called out. Like, Pete, you pushed all your chips in and you were wrong, buddy. Gallicomimus, like his pronunciation of the name was so good. That was Kevin from Orlando who was giving me heat, and it's deserved because I guess I made our listeners think we're going to be able to defend one play. And Sam, we had a hard time defending that one play.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they ran that play over and over again in their first 2 games. And I was talking with some people on Twitter, and I'm not by any means a football's X's and O's expert, but it does seem to be more of a alignment issue and like a tipping your defense issue than it does, oh, this player's just not doing their assignment. Yeah. This guy's just not getting over quick enough. Like, if you watch those plays, there's no one there to defend it. Like, Caleb Woodson would be kind of lined up right in between the guard and the tackle. And you would get that play where the H-back, it's a play action, H-back rolls out to the flat. He has to cover that gap as the linebacker, but then he all of a sudden has to sprint 10 yards to the outside to cover that H-back. And because you're in press man coverage on the outside with your corner's back is turned to the whole thing. They can't see any of it. And your safeties are playing up and in because you're so scared of the run, and it's wide open. And when they did stop it, when they did cover it, Callie McManus didn't have anybody in front of him. So he just stumbled forward for 4 yards, and that's still a good play on first and second down. And to me, that's like, okay, they're running this play every single time, and there's nothing you can do defensively. You must be tipping something pre-snap, or you must be out of alignment. Your cues must be wrong. Something is wrong. And I said this last night, like Monday through Friday is the issue because
it is, man.
A lot of these plays, man, like, yeah, players make mistakes. Coaches have bad play calls, but there are some instances, specifically defensively, where guys just have no shot of making a play. Like it looks like a busted play in a video game.
Yeah. Let's get to that in a second. I just want to make sure people know. Call 540-251-2169 if you want to get in on the reaction line next week. The number was on the screen, but wanted to read it off for you so you have it. Story of the game, Sam. I want to ask you for your story after this short break. 2 Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Jack and Coke. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. We talked about them at the top of the show. They are the proud sponsor of this show. And the #1 cocktail in the world is now available in a can. It's true. Tennessee whiskey and Coca-Cola, or Coca-Cola Zero, are now available in your local grocery and convenience stores in a ready-to-drink can. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke, ready to drink. And as always, please, please drink responsibly. Sam, what was your story of the game?
Regression. That's kind of my story of this game. Pete, we have, I wouldn't be surprised if we could have copy and texted text to each other from last year at this time.
From a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is post-Marshall game.
It is. We were 1-3 then, and we're 2-2 now. And it's the same. Like, I actually sent the calls from after Marshall to you guys a couple days ago. And the reaction, the voicemails from last year after Marshall are so similar to the ones that came in this year. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, I think it's just egregious that it's been a year and the passing game still looks uninspired. You're not getting Tootin involved early enough. Defense, like I just went on about, there are just plays where nobody is in the area to make a play. And it is like, it is just so frustrating.
Well, can we say, let's say this, and let's frame it this way, because they did what we wanted them to do, right? They slowed Monangai down. That was #1 priority. They did what we wanted them to do first, which was stop the run. I said, let's sell out against the run. Let's stop the run. I don't think the quarterback's very good, and let's make him beat us. The problem was we let him beat us. We let them do that play over and over again. And to your point about the linebackers, it's been like this for at least the last 2 seasons. Even if you go back to that, we've been shuffling these linebackers around, trying to find positions for them. This guy doesn't work here. This guy doesn't work here. Or switch them back, flip, flop. It's like the scheme is wrong. Whatever they're doing is wrong. Like, it is so poorly designed. If you keep flipping linebackers because you can't find anybody and they're all this athletic, it's on you, Chris Marv. You are the linebackers coach and you are the defensive coordinator. It's got to get figured out.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to be a overarching schematic issue that they have defensively, where they really struggle with option plays where there is a third option. And it's not necessarily a triple option like you think with the service academies and Georgia Tech and stuff like that. It is just the true run pass option that a quarterback has, right? You can hand it off, you can throw, or you can run. Vanderbilt ran a variation of it and crushed Virginia Tech. Rutgers ran a variation of it and they didn't crush Virginia Tech, but it shouldn't have been that easy for them at points. You go back to last year, Florida State killed Virginia Tech with this. Old Dominion, when they played in the first game last year, crushed Virginia Tech with this. Like, it's the same offensive play style really, really hurts this defense. And they have not made any changes in 2+ years to figure it out. And guess what Miami is going to run on them all game long. Guess what Boston College is going to run on them all game long. Guess what Georgia Tech is going to run
Boston
on them.
College
UVA
scares me, man, with their
Duke,
offense.
Like all of those teams run an RPO style offense. And if you don't figure it out, they're all going to score 26, 27 plus. And you got to find a way to score 30.
I mean, 26 was like a best case scenario on Saturday. And if you have the offense we're supposed to have this year, we should still win the game. I mean, we would think that we could score 30 points a game this year. Like that should have been. It was one of my goals. Even if we didn't say it flat out, like we expected to have a top 40, top 30 offense, and those offenses score 30 points a game.
I mean, mathematically, they're getting to a point where it's going to be hard to be top 30 at this point.
Oh, extremely.
Yeah.
But so let's go to my story of the game just so we can finish that point. It was another slow start and the continued inability for our coaches to adjust. And we've been over a little bit of that already. How many times, Sam, are we going to fail to play an entire game? Or forget entire game. Why can't we play a first half completely? I just play the first half completely and then maybe give me half a second half. So it's not all connected in one bad spot. I don't know how you get yourself down 23-7 in this game. Like I do know how because I watched, but like you just can't do it. And we discussed the early fumble and how critical that was. But it's another sign. I think Kevin hit this in his call, and I might have not been able to put it in. But it's like this team has such a hard time of like having a mistake and then quickly getting over it, quickly adjusting the game plan, quickly doing whatever else to get out of your own way. And we saw it last year. We thought we got past it, and now we're back. And that sign of regression, which was your story, that's scary, man. Because in any coach's tenure, you want to see even if it's, one step back, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. Instead, we've gone all the way back and we're right back to where we were after game 4.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it feels like that. You're in the same exact spot you were after 4 games last year. And I think you have a more talented team. And I think you're really lucky to be 2-2 and not 1-3 like you were last year. It's so disappointing too, because any sort of performance and you're 4-0.
I know.
I mean, this is considering how bad Marshall and Old Dominion are, this is worst case scenario.
We could be just as bad and still be 4-0 if a ball bounces here or there.
Yeah.
What we can address, I want to address the idea of, I know we're both like breathing heavy. I want to address the idea of us coming back in these games a little bit later. Let's talk about the offense in just a little bit more detail. Drones wasn't very good. 0 touchdowns, the pick, the fumble, just 13 of 27, low QBR, low rating. And you want to talk about going back to things. Why are we having to, why do I feel trolled that we're not running the ball more? Like, I feel like it's getting to a comical point.
It is. I think there's a few facets. One, I think Tootin is beat up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
2, you're having situations where you're down multiple scores early in games. And I think they are trying to utilize these wide receivers, but it doesn't look like they quite know how to run a passing offense when guys aren't wide open. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Pete, but I don't know how much this team really focuses on making throws into tight windows, making contested catches, feeling comfortable under pressure. Like everything is so schemed up to be wide open that when it's not wide open, Kyron just eats the ball.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't try to make 1v1 throws to guys who probably would win that. Or he doesn't make reads to say, hey, I got Tootin 1v1 with a guy on the outside. I'm going to hand it to him because I know he can make that guy miss. Like they don't do those. And I don't know how much they practice them because the offense is so focused on scheming guys open that a quarterback like Kyron Jones, who hasn't played a lot of college football.
Not a lot of drop back college football.
And then he didn't play a lot of high school football either. He started 2 years and one of them was a COVID year. he probably doesn't have a lot of experience throwing into tight windows. He probably doesn't have a lot of experience throwing go routes to guys who are covered 1v1 and saying, hey, Felton, I know that guy's blanketed on you, but I trust you. I'm going to throw that ball up to you. He just doesn't throw that ball.
Yeah.
And it's,
if you want to, talk about, how he worked out with Cam Ward, who we're about to play, and Shedeur Sanders over the summer. The amount of pass attempts for Cam Ward is off the charts in his college career. The amount of pass attempts for Shedeur Sanders is completely off the charts compared to Drones. Like, he's not even close in terms of an experience level in terms of that skill set. So expecting him to dish it to these 4 wide receivers that all came back was probably foolish. But, we're hearing from the coaches that he is fitting it into tight windows, that he is improving in that aspect. And we're hopeful.
It doesn't matter if it doesn't have it on Saturdays, dude.
Right.
It does not matter. And I think a lot of players, some guys are gamers and they'll just go out there and look amazing. And they just, when the lights come on, I think Kyron can be one of those players. But right now, the whole offensive scheme, his play, the wide receivers plays, like, if it's not really easy for them, it doesn't seem like they're going to make that play,
And how is it taking 4 games for Bowen and company to realize that and try to do something like we saw in the second half of ODU, where, you know what, let's just run him. Let's get him some confidence. Let's do what he does best and play off of that. And no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to give it to Tootin one time in the first 11 plays. One time.
Yeah.
Like, I went into it last night how he averaged a touchdown every 5 carries on Saturday. He's averaged a touchdown every 10 touches this season. I know he's banged up, but whenever he had the ball, he was incredible. And he has the most broken tackles in college football with a bad O-line and a bad knee. It's absolutely crazy how good this freaking kid is. He's on pace to get super close to Lee Suggs' touchdown record. You have to get him the ball more. 6.8 yards per carry as a team. We only gave Malachi 2 carries to boot.
Yeah, the lack of Malachi Thomas carries frustrates me as well, because he has looked good when he's gotten the ball, and it's just like, dude, I don't know, man.
But let's put a bow on the Bowen talk and the scheme talk, because my feeling is, and it's similar to yours, the scheme and the play calls are simply not good enough, and they've led to a very hesitant and insecure Kyron Drones. Like that, basically his faith in the scheme has been shaken, and he's so, I don't want to call it happy feet, but he's not letting it rip. He's not throwing it to receivers on time. He's throwing it in the dirt. He's overthrowing. The holding onto it too long or locking onto a guy and then trying to dump it, but the dump is late. Like, that's a problem. That's something Brian Holbrook on Twitter pointed out to me. Teams are playing a lot of zone. That's something that Shelton said. And his ability to pass from the pocket is simply not there to compensate for that.
Yeah.
And
we're not rolling him out either.
Right. Not enough.
Not a lot of designed rollouts this year.
Can we just run the Calais McManus play?
Just run that play over and over and over again. Yeah. It is, it's frustrating, Pete. It's really frustrating to look at all this talent and it's just not clicking at all.
Yeah. And whether I said this on Twitter too, like, we want to point fingers. We want to, this is the problem. This is the problem. But like, let me tell you what's going on. 98th in passing efficiency, 100 in completion percentage, 98th in pass yards per game. Those are the facts. I don't care what the hell the problem is. You got to freaking figure it out, and you got to figure it out before we get into ACC play, which is coming up right now, because there's just too many mistakes happening on both sides. But we're talking about offense right now, and you've got 3 actual turnovers. You got 2 of those from the quarterback, multiple turnover on downs, which both were on passes that didn't go to Tootin or a run that went to Tootin. I know one was 10 yards, but whatever. So and the safety. So if you add all those up, we're talking about 6 turnovers, safety, 2 turnover on downs, and 3 actual turnovers. I know Rutgers made their mistakes, but if you essentially have 6 turnovers in a game and you have the game tied, it's just got to make you sick. Like you were right there, man. Like,
I mean, this team could have. They were there, dude. They had the ball. And it is frustrating. Everything is so predictable too. Like all the mistakes feel predictable. All the play calling feels predictable. Like when Tech was backed up against the goal line, you go run up the middle, and then pass with deep routes that take a while to develop. And your right tackle is against their best pass rusher 1v1. Like, dude, it is.
And Kyron's got to get rid of the ball. He's
got to get rid of the ball.
You're in the end zone, man. You got to dish it.
A comedy of errors, comedy of errors that is piling up. And that's how, that's the only way you lose games as the more talented team is just a comedy of errors over and over and over again. And they've done that twice now.
Let's shout out the Gosnell brothers to bring the mood up before we go to defense because they deserve a shout out. Both of them caught 2-point conversions in this game. And Pat said on their show, like, what are the odds you get 2 back-to-back 2-point conversions to tie the game? And both of those conversions are to 2 different brothers. Like it's absolutely crazy. And we're going to talk about this, but to come back and do that, like even just getting 2 touchdowns with 2-point conversions to anybody is hard. And you see it so rarely in pro, in college, anywhere. So that was very impressive. And the Gosnell brothers, if anyone has played up to their hype, to what we talked about them in the preseason, it's those 2 kids. Like they have, I don't know what they did this summer, but it was better than what a lot of the other guys were doing.
Yeah, they both look really good. I think Benji has a long ways to go as a blocker. I think right now he's a liability as a blocker. But as a wide receiver, he is spectacular.
Yeah.
And Steven Gosnell makes every catch. So those guys have been kind of the bedrock of this offense, this passing game specifically, to start this year.
We already talked about the rollout play that they kept running. We talked about us slowing Monungai down, the thing that we wanted to do. I think what I'd like to highlight here is Caleb Woodson getting 10 tackles and 1.5 TFL in only his second start. Mm-hmm. And we were like, this is a breakout spot for him. And 10 tackles, that's really good from a young player against a tough, physical front with a tough physical running back. So that was nice to see. Mose Phillips, another young player, made 11 tackles. Keller, he was up there too. Did he have 9? I got my sheet here, but he had a bunch of tackles too, and the fumble recovery for Jaden Keller. So it was nice to see him load up the stat sheet a little bit. Delane had 5, a pass breakup, and the forced fumble, which was huge at the time, and 1.5 sacks for APR. So now he sits alone at tops in the country with 6 sacks. Sam,
he's having a heck of a season.
Cool.
And I think it can get better because I think Tech's played a team in ODU that didn't really try to throw the ball that much. I know he got one there in that game, but Marshall, the guy, got the ball out really, really quick. I know they threw the ball a lot, but there weren't a lot of sack opportunities in that game. I think he's going to have a really impressive number. I think through the first third of the season, he's probably all ACC, and it's really good for Tech.
Yeah, 6 sacks. I know a bunch of them came in one game, but if you got 6 through 4 games, you're gonna put up a really good number. Enough if he excels even beyond that, ACC Player of the Year is going to be hard to come by with, as well as Cam Ward and some of the other quarterbacks are playing. But Defensive Player of the Year, it could be there. Special teams, yet another screw up. Another week, another screw up on special teams. I don't know what you do about that one. If you're Stu Holt, the guy fumbled, I'm not going to necessarily put that on Stu Holt, but we've just seen too much crap happen from special teams, and it's hurting us so much. So let's get to the takeaways, Sam. Do you want to start with just anything?
I'll say something that I put on Twitter last night, and it's a little bit stat nerdy, but I think it is. We'll get to the point. So, I do in my model, I adjust the expected points added margin between 2 teams. I adjust it for venue and I adjust it for opponent. Since the beginning of 2022, so 2+ years of data, 85% of the teams that have the positive margin in the game, adjusted for venue and opponent, win the game. 85%. So that means only 15% lose outright.
Mm-hmm.
Under Brent Pry, in 31% of Tech's games, 5 of the 16 losses that they have had the higher adjusted expected points added margin. So they are doubling the national rate of losses in which you outplay the opponent on a play-by-play basis. Now, how do you get there, right? Because there has to be something, and it can be a bunch of different things. The biggest things that you can look at is explosive plays, right? Explosive plays can change a game. That's a 25-yard run.
And Pry has said that too. He said that exact thing.
It is huge. Except Tech had 5 explosive plays in that game, and Rutgers only had 1, and there was that screen pass. So then what happened? Important one. So then the only really big picture thing that can happen consistently in games like that are turnovers on your own side of the field, because then you give the team a ball in the position where they are expected to score, i.e. fumbling the ball and Rutgers taking over at your 31-yard line that's well within field goal range, or fumbling to start the second half, or tipped ball interception on your own half against Vanderbilt. Those are ways that you lose games. By
We've done those things in 3 out of 4 games, and multiple in some of those games.
And that's how you lose. And it's like, what is so frustrating from just a Virginia Tech fan who wants them to win so desperately bad. They are outplaying teams. People don't want to hear that. I think they just want to be angry. If you look at these games, Tech is on par or better than a lot of the losses that they have had over the past 2 years. The issue is every time they make a mistake, it is in the worst possible scenario, and it sets up the other team for 7 points. And that has been the
why
issue.
Would that keep repeating? Like, that's what I'm saying. It seems so random for that to keep repeating.
It does, but it's also, I mean, good players don't make those mistakes. That's kind of part of
Yeah, and that's an interesting theory too, because people are coming at me again with we're not talented enough. And particularly on the O-line, I hear that complaint, but I'm not buying it 3 years into this rebuild.
I mean, it's things like if you have the punt and you're on your own 30-yard line and guys are running at you, probably need to fair catch that. If you are throwing a screen pass and you're throwing it into a blitz, you probably need to throw around guys and not try to throw over them because they're going to put their hands up. When it's things like that where
they're dumb.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of unlucky. It's kind of like, oh shoot, how'd that happen? But it's also like, hey, there was probably an avenue for you not to even be in position to make that mistake.
Or someone should have told you, hey, when this happens, do this.
Yeah.
And they're not being told that or coached that or hammered home enough. And listen, I'm always going to blame the coaches more than the players. And we see these things, and you're right, Sam. It's like, must have been bad luck. But when it's that much bad luck, that often, you make your own luck. You do, whether it's from the top or the players or whatever, but it all comes from the top. And we talked a little bit about us potentially being 4-0, and there is an alternate universe where we could be 4-0, but we didn't win the games. And that's that little difference where everyone's like the fine line between winning and losing. It's a fine line. But what it takes to get there is much more thick, if you will. It's a big difference. It is a big difference mentally. It's a big difference in doing all those little things to win games because you are coached day in and day out better to do all those little things better. So, yeah, people say that's a very thin line. It's hard to win games when you are doing all the dumb stuff we are doing. So yeah, we could be 4-0 if the universe was about to implode on itself. We simply just need to be so much better if we're going to win these games. We need to figure out how to win. Me and you have talked about it a lot. And what's weird about prize football teams is that similar to Rick and Ronnie, we fight. At some point in every game, unless we're completely outmatched, like Florida State or Louisville last year, we usually have it within one score. We know Pry has had 10 one-score games. He has 1-9 in those games. 16 losses overall in his career. 9 are in one-score games. But this also includes a number of games where we got it to one score after being down big. And even ones where it wasn't one score, like Rutgers last year. We fought back in that game. So what I'm trying to say is Brent Pry's teams, they don't quit, but for some reason, we can't seem to show that fight until our backs are completely against the wall or the game's already completely out of hand. And I don't like, if you can get them to fight that hard, like, why can't you get them to fight that hard right at the beginning? And it's a skill for Brent Pry to keep his teams like in the game and not quit and not fold, but do it, like, take it one more step further, please, God. Like, we need it so badly.
It's the difference. Yeah, it is a very thin line. However, Virginia Tech, by not playing up to their potential, has put themselves in a position where if you make those mistakes, it's not a, oh, shoot, we'll get them on the next drive. It's a, oh, crap, there goes the game.
And that's what all the fans think. And I'm afraid that's what the players are thinking. Because after we fumbled that punt, I said, oh, shoot, there goes the game. Even though I shouldn't.
Pretty much.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it was.
While we're still talking about this, I did want to bring up something. And
is this the coaches thing?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah, do it.
The lack of experience on this coaching staff, I think, is showing up big time. And it's not because I want to preface this by, I don't mean it in a facetious or like elementary way, but I just don't know how much these guys know what they're doing on a game plan basis, because there's no real experience in those rooms. And it's showing where they seem reacting to every single thing the other coaching staff does. And they seem to be just blitzed by very basic strategy changes at the beginning of games. And to me, it's because you have a head coach who's brand new, an offensive coordinator is brand new, a defensive coordinator has never done it. I mean, that you came in with zeros on the experience level for all three. But how about this team? I'm going to ask you, see if you can figure out who this team is.
Okay.
And these teams have made head coaching hires very recently. This team, their head coach, 15 plus years of experience as a head coach. Their offensive coordinator is son of an NFL legend and has 10 plus years as an offensive coordinator. And their defensive coordinator has 5+ years as a defensive coordinator.
I mean,
that is Indiana. Indiana's hiring Mike Shanahan as their offensive coordinator.
Mike Shanahan? Okay, that's interesting.
How about this team? Their head coach has 18+ years of head coaching experience, 2 of them in the NFL. Their offensive coordinator has 20+ years of offensive coordinator experience, and their defensive coordinator has 5+ years, 2 years on top of that as a head coach at the FCS level.
At the is this Kubiak? Who's the one?
It's not Kubiak. That's a good guess.
Just
that's Rutgers. That's the team you just lost to.
Yeah.
You just lost to a team that
I should have guessed that one.
That across the board had almost 45 years of head coaching experience. Let's look across the country. Boise State. They just hired a brand new staff. Guess who their offensive coordinator is? Dirk Ketter.
Yeah,
they're scoring 50 points a game.
Yeah.
I mean, Dirk Ketter might not have been great as a head coach, but dude scored a lot of points as an NFL offensive coordinator and as a college one. I mean, you look at NIU, Northern Illinois, 25+ years of experience between their 3 coordinators. Toledo, you're looking at 40+ years of experience between the 3 coordinators.
And like, I get it, man. And you're making the point.
Rutgers and Indiana shouldn't out-hire you.
Experience is not everything. And sometimes you give a guy a chance and he wows you. And Brent Pry himself does have a lot of experience, not as a head coach, but as a coordinator, he has a ton of experience. Tyler Bowen, I think he did a year of a co-OC. I'm not defending it because you are right, and I agree that they are inexperienced. And when they were hired, Robbie and I said, this is recruiting hires. You don't hire 2 young, inexperienced guys because of their schemes, because of their expertise. You hire them for recruiting. And Bowen went out and he got drones. I can't tell you off the top of my head who Marv's gone out and got. And I'm not sure the recruiting returns have super been there by these 2 hires. Nevertheless, that's where my mentality went when they were hired. And if you're going to do that, you better recruit your freaking ass off because you don't have the scheme and you don't have the experience. And so it's backfiring, it would seem. It does seem as if it's backfiring. The thing that bugs me, Sam, is that they didn't have experience when they got here. But now they both have 2 years of experience in the roles, and they're not better. They have better players, and they are not better. And that is what is really frustrating because I'm willing to give people chances, and maybe you should have done one and not the other and whatever. Like we had Brad Glenn here for the first year, a guy who has had that experience. And that year wasn't good either, but the rosters were so bad, we kind of brushed it off. Do I want Brad Glenn back? No, I don't. But I'm just saying, like, there was an attempt at different points. Like Sean Quinn has a ton of experience in the industry. But it wasn't enough. And when you're talking about how much the coordinators are responsible for, and you're trying to be a big boy program, you probably should have brought in somebody with some real experience.
Yeah. And that is, it's disappointing on a more holistic Virginia Tech level that they are where they are right now. And you have national pundits, well-respected national pundits like Bud Elliott getting on there and multiple times saying, on the biggest college football podcast in the country, saying they're not a well-coached team.
Yeah. And it doesn't take
tough.
much VT. Like, I know he's not watching every game in and out, but it doesn't take much Virginia Tech game film to see that. It just doesn't. And I don't think it's because like Brent Pry doesn't know ball. I don't think it's because Chris Marv doesn't know how to be a good linebacker. I don't think it's because Tyler Bowen doesn't know, good schematics on offense. I think it's just, this stuff is hard, man. Like, it's really hard. Coaches get fired all the time because this is really hard. And it's like, you need to be at a next level thinking to be successful at this level. Like, you need to out scheme your guy because they're going to like the experience that Rutgers has on that sideline and in that booth. We don't have a shot against it. Yeah. And they made a lot of screw ups in this game. I mean, that's not like that coaching staff was flawless, even with all their experience. Yeah. And shit happens. Sometimes you have a bad game, but we can't fall back on the experience. And one thing I was going to finally point out is that when you hire these two guys at 32 and you don't have a Jerry Kill on your staff or someone like that, their learning from others kind of stops, right? Because now they're in charge at a very young age. If they're in another job with a more experienced coordinator in front of them, they're still learning. They're still growing in their schematics and their development. Well, now you've put Marv and Bowen at 32 in these positions, and the only people they can learn from is themselves and what's happening to them week in and week out. And that's not a good position to be if you don't know enough yet. Yeah. And so it's not only that they were inexperienced, it's that they were too young. Like I think, and they're not the same. And I don't know. We need to move on. I think the fan base is at a super dejected, very low point. You heard it in the calls. Mm-hmm. It's not lower than Duke 2019, but it's close. Yeah, this feels... And that's going to lead us to Miami, because who did we play after Duke 2019? Oh, Miami. But this is a different Miami team, dude. This is a different Miami team. All right. Let's take a moment to talk about our other sponsor. Too Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Roback. Roback is the only performance activewear that's designed for those who crave activity. They put out the new drop. They've got the game day polo. They've got the VT, which is actually the TV logo shirt is called the VT. They've got the Commonwealth in both colors. Right now, they're offering our listeners 20% off if you use code 2DVT. Hoodies, tees, quarter zips, joggers, dresses for girls or boys, all the good stuff that you want. Make sure you're using code 2DVT, loading up your cart and getting 20% off your order. Roback Crave Activity. Sam, you are not drinking. You're healing up. We are healing up. I'm going to make some Sleepy Time tea in a little bit. Oh, great one. Great one right there. I do like Sleepy Time tea. I'm having the Shiner October. It's got a beautiful orange label for the Hokies. Marzen style lager that goes down super smooth. I mean, Shiner in general makes a lot of fun, easy drinking beers. Shiner Bock is the original. I remember getting a keg of Shiner Bock in college and thinking we were all rich because one of our buddies decided to ante up and get it. But 5.7%. This thing's delicious, man. We're always going for those ones that are not. I prefer the ones that are not too heavy, and this one's definitely not too heavy. It's under 6. You can drink a bunch. They're cheap. Shiner Oktoberfest. I recommend it.
It's a good one.
I guess I should rate it. Let's go 3.75.
Solid.
All right, Miami. Friday night, 9:27, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. We get the national spotlight, Sam. Hell yeah, 2 4-0 teams. I already made this joke. 7th in the FPI for Miami, up from 23 preseason. 7th in the SP Plus. We are sitting at number 40. We were 35 last week, dropped 5 spots. Athlon preseason, they were 20th. Miami was. They are now 3rd, projected 3rd, I should say, in the ACC. Lindy's 17. Steele, he had Miami at number 10. The AP poll, I believe, they're sitting at 7, I think it is.
Yeah.
This is a top 10 game that we're going to play. They lost a lot in the portal, but they gained a bunch, including Cam Ward, including some defensive studs, Martinez, Brown. It's a good roster. We knew Cristobal was going to go down there and put together a good roster. He's a great recruiter. And I'm worried. What are you more worried about in this game, Sam? Is it the defensive pass rush, or is it Cam Ward slicing up our defense?
I would say the defensive pass rush, because then you start to worry about the health of your backfield players.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think Tech is going to be able to give some more resistance to Miami than anything Miami's had so far this year. They've played 4 teams that have, quite frankly, bad defensive second, like bad.
We
Florida
are better than those 4.
Bad defensively. And I think Tech will be a step up competition defensively from the teams that they have played so far.
Agree.
As for the pass rush that Miami has, though, it comes from all angles, man. They get pressure on the interior defensive tackle spots. Ruben Bain is electric as a defensive end. We'll see what Tyler Barron, if he's able to go. I know he's banged up.
He's been really good.
Yeah, but he's really, really darn good. Little brother of former Hokie game wrecker, Woody Barron.
Oh, you're muted, man. Something happened there. Come back to me.
Weird. Did you hear about how Woody Barron is tearing it up as a CFL player?
CFL? Oh no, I did not hear that.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job for the Winnipeg Bombers.
I think I lost your mic. I think it switched your mic on you.
Oh, weird.
Give that a check real quick. But I'll talk about their offense, because right now Miami is number 2 in the country in yards per play, slightly behind Ole Miss, like 0.02 yards per play behind Ole Miss. They're that close to being the number 1 offense in the country in terms of a yard per play. 405 pass yards per game. That's also second nationally behind Ole Miss. And those 2 teams are nearly 40 yards per game ahead of any other team in the country. So it's not air raid, but like it kind of feels that way.
Yeah. Is it
yeah, sounds
now?
good.
It's awesome. They've had a lot of guys running wide open, and it's because they're doing a really good job pre-snap, and they're doing a really good job beating guys off the line. Like Restrepo is a great route runner. Cam Ward has done a good job extending plays, rolling out of the pocket and finding guys as they're running away. And then you have the threat of the run game. Like you kind of, I don't say you have to stack the box, but you have to be wary of Cam Ward as a runner, but also Damian Martinez and Lyles. Those 2 running backs are probably the best duo.
Pretty loaded.
They're probably the best backfield, best wide receiver core, best offensive line, best defensive line in the ACC.
That's what Athlon said preseason, and it's true.
I mean, Pete, in terms of NFL skill talent, you could argue they are up there with Georgia and Bama and Texas. And they might be above, like, in terms of wide receiver, they might be above Georgia. Offensive line, I think they're definitely above Georgia. Like, they are good.
Yeah, they've got 5 wide receivers that have over 150 yards receiving. We have 2. They have 5. And no, we're not a good passing team, but some of those guys are well over 150 yards. One of ours is slightly over in Gosnell. And it's not just Lyle, it's not just Martinez, it's Fletcher, it's Allen. They even if one of those first two guys were to go down, they've got very capable backs. The O-line is a lot of beef, not a ton of experience on the O-line, but a lot of high caliber, talented players. I am curious about what their the mock drafts are saying about this Miami team. I'll have to look that up because preseason they didn't have a ton of top 3 round guys as far as the mocks were going.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, those change obviously
they
throughout
change
the
so
year,
much.
But I think you're looking like Cam Ward is looking like Heisman caliber. Their wide receiver core, we've been over, that's deep, but their defensive secondary, which was supposed to be the weakness of this team, has played pretty darn well through 4 weeks. And so I think from Miami's perspective, they feel like they don't have a weak link in the chain.
I'm looking at an updated mock draft through 100 picks, and they've got one Miami player, and it is Cam Ward and a first-round pick, number 28. Fourth quarterback off the board in this mock, but still a first-rounder for Cam Ward. Behind Shador, behind Quinn.
Dude, I'd draft him ahead of Shador. And I draft him ahead of Quinn right now, to be honest with you.
And then the other one is Beck. Beck is
Dude, I'd probably draft him ahead of, like, I saw a mock draft that Cam Ward was going to the Browns, and I was like, hell yes, sign me up, put him on the team right
Don't you have like $200 million still due to a certain quarterback?
I don't care if we have the GDP of a small European nation tied to the quarterback, Pete. I would rather have Cam Ward. Like, he's on fire.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Browns have had a lot of Miami Hurricanes over the years.
Vinny Testaverde had him.
What about that running back?
Duke Johnson.
David
Njoku right now is a beast.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
They've had a good amount of Miami Hurricanes. Travis Benjamin was a good wide receiver for him for a bit. We can keep going.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like, and maybe, the one thing about Miami is they put a lot of guys in the NFL. So you could probably do this with a number of different teams. I just feel like the Browns have had a ton.
Yeah, they have. And I'll say this too about this Miami team. We talked about this with Cam Underwood on College Football Mondays, who was great, but this is a slightly different Miami team. Like, they are built, this is the best roster they've had for a while. And it looks to be like they have the leadership. They have that alpha mentality. They look kind of like an OG Miami team right now. And if you look at any advanced metric, opponent adjusted, venue adjusted, if you just, like, through 4 games, they're a national champion caliber team. Will they win it? Probably not.
And I want to see them play someone
there
with a pulse on defense first.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about Ole Miss. You could say the same thing about Ohio State. You could say
but they're putting up because they're not just beating these teams by 1 point.
They're beating them by 1 billion.
They're smoking them. So you can say they beat nobody good, but you have to take the margin into account too.
Yeah.
And I want to make a couple comments on some of the statistical things that stand out. Number 1 in sacks in the country for Miami. They have 16 sacks. We're tied for 10th with 13. So we're not doing too bad. But when I asked you that question, what are you more afraid of? I am way more afraid of their defensive front against our offensive line. It terrifies me. I don't know what we're going to do. And then you look at their secondary, which I thought was going to be the weakness going into this year because they put 3 guys in the draft. They have 8 interceptions. They have 8 interceptions already, 12th in opposing passer rating. And the quarterback for USF isn't terrible. Mertz isn't terrible. Like, it's so that's if this defense, if it comes together on every level, because Mauigoa, Basante, like, their linebackers are really good, their line is good, and if the secondary is really good too, well, first of all, we're not going to be able to pass on this team anyway. But like
we couldn't pass on Marshall.
So it's already a bad matchup. It's already a bad matchup anyway. But let's get to our overall thoughts, because we've said enough about the talent and how good they are. Number 1 on the defense in a thing. Number 2 on the offense in multiple things. I think what we'll do to disturb Cam Ward could give us a shot in the game because of our pass rush. I want to see how this beefy offensive line with limited experience does against our defensive front. And if we can get some pressure, it can throw guys off. And if Cam Ward has a bad night, if it's bad weather, that could play into our favor. Because not only do we have a pass rush, but we do have some pretty good corners.
Yeah, I think that's the key for Virginia Tech in this game is, on one hand, it is make Miami line up and run the ball on you, because they haven't really done that this year. They have the ability to do it for sure, but they haven't shown the desire to do that. They want to spread it out and throw the ball up and down the field. So I think you pass rush, you understand that they're going to want to pass first, and you make them call the run plays to beat you. And then offensively, I think you shorten the game. I think you're milking clock in this one. Like, lessen the plays, increase the variability, give yourself a chance, because if the defense has to run out there for like 70 scrimmage plays, it's not going to go well. You have to give your defense a break if you're going to play that ultra aggressive style in the pass rush. And you have to give your offense a chance to get the right play call in, get the right checks, run the ball, control the clock. It's going to be a loud crowd. It's going to be a raucous environment. Do your best to lessen the impact of that as well. If Tech does that, I think they can maybe cover the spread.
And that line got up to 19.5. I think I saw it was back down to maybe 18.5.
Yeah.
Plus 740 for you money line sickos. Friday night under the lights, as you said, there's a time when Miami fans will come out. It's when they're undefeated and they've got a night game like that. And so they will be out. Hard Rock will indeed be rocking. And they've kind of owned us as of late. If we just want to go to the bigger picture, it's 7 of 9 for Miami. Our last win was Hooker in 2019. Talked a little bit about this with Cam last night, that we've had some shockers against Miami. That 2019 game was one of them. We were dead in the water. We're 2 games, 2 touchdown underdogs, looked awful, and then we started Hendon Hooker. 1995 was a big upset. 2013, we've had some other times where like, Miami's just going to kill them, and we compete. And some of our more seasoned fans, Pat Finn, I think I saw Holbrook put this out there, some other people are starting to talk about it, are going contrarian. Like, when you're at a spot where like you've got a team that's so high and playing so well and their fans are feeling so good, and then you've got the other team who's in a very low spot with their fan base. And despite the fact that they've beaten nobody, they've killed them, but they've beaten nobody. Despite the fact that our losses were both by 1 score and games that we had tied in the fourth quarter, no one's given us a shot, and we're nearly 20-point underdogs. Yeah. And when that happens in college football, in a conference game, in a game that a lot of people consider a rivalry, shit can go different than you expect.
And I think from Virginia Tech will be ready, like they'll be up for this game. I don't see a world where they're not. From a pure betting perspective, nothing points to Virginia Tech having a shot in this game, which is probably why Virginia Tech will have a shot in this game, because that's just kind of how college football works. And we haven't seen Miami, have much resistance yet. I mean, that game was kind of close against USF, but there were some like wacky things that happened to get USF a 15-14 lead or whatever it was. I think Tech has a shot to keep this one close. I think they do. And they just love playing close games. So some teams find their way to close games.
The 2 biggest upsets of the last 15 years were both in Miami too, which is a very interesting aspect of this. Like, you would think, they'd definitely be in Lane Stadium, but no, because they don't have, it's not a regular college football environment. I'm not saying it won't be loud or rocking, and we've lost some games badly down there, but I'm just saying, the 2 biggest upsets we've had in the last 15 years, 2013 and 2019, they came down in Miami. And we're not as bad as we've shown this season. We are not.
No, they're not.
We're going to play even 90% of our best in this game. It would be competitive. Like, it would be a competitive game. Are we going to get to 90%, Sam?
That's the question. I think you have to lean on what you know you are really good at, and you have to try to shorten this game. Like, you have to try to make that one mistake that because Cam Ward, he's played college football a long time. He does a lot of uh-ohs. Like, he's an uh-oh quarterback. He will make an uh-oh. And when he makes that you have to make it pay. Like, it has to turn into 7 points for your team because you're not going to get a lot of shots. Like,
I like you calling mistakes uh-ohs.
They're uh-ohs because when he releases
whoopsie
the ball,
daisies.
They're whoopsie daisies. He knows it right when he releases it. And like, if I'm Brent Pry, I'm going for it on fourth. If it's fourth and under 5, I'm going for it.
Yeah. You gotta you gotta measure your
not
risk.
Kicking field goals.
I don't know if you go full Sirianni, but you definitely
think you
take your risks.
I mean, you kind of might have to
do a full Sirianni. I'm joking about the Eagles head coach because people say he's allergic to points because he's always gambling, always gambling.
But you have to. 3 points isn't going to help you in this game.
No,
like, this team's scoring like 50 a game.
Like, this is the
Kentucky
Kentucky
not
thing.
Help
like,
you.
Don't kick 4 field goals. Like, don't punt the ball with 3 minutes left. Don't do that.
And I expect them, because Virginia Tech under Brent Pry has been very aggressive on 4th down. I expect them to be aggressive on 4th down. I expect to see a weird trick play here or there. I expect them to go all out on the pass rush. Like, we'll see if it works.
So if Tech is going to turn their season around, the moment is this Friday. Like, because to me, and maybe that's a little silly because of how much of an underdog we are, but like, if you lose this game, you're 2-3. You have to fly to California and play a Stanford team that is capable of beating teams. They played TCU moderately tough. They played Syracuse and won in the Dome. Like, you think you're going to go out to California and get an easy win. You're wrong. And so you get a week off after that, and then you got BC on national television. So, like, it's not getting easier for a little bit here. So if you want to turn your season around, I suggest you do it sooner than later.
And this is where you find out a lot about your team. Like, lights on, playing a big time opponent, primetime television.
The guys should be juiced up.
This is where you figure out, like, are these guys ready to handle this level of play? Because you're going to have a game very similar to this towards the end of the season with Clemson. You're going to have a game similar to this to start next season against South Carolina. You have to have, if you're going to be big-time college football, you need to have guys who show up in these games. So we'll see what Tech looks like, because they haven't really had this opportunity with this iteration of Virginia Tech football. You know, their only other big opponent was like Florida State. That was a 3:30 game-ish. And from what I heard, that crowd wasn't the best. And that wasn't a big national focus game.
No, it wasn't.
So this is, with Brent Pry's guys, this is the first big-time game they've really played in.
Depending on how this plays out, if we keep it within one score and Brent Pry goes 1-10 in one-score games, are you proud? Are you happy?
If you cover the spread here by 2 scores, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to be honest, because I was very optimistic going into this season. I said 10-2, and I sat here and said, I don't think they have a shot against Miami. So I'm not changing that opinion right now. And I also think they have a lot of season left ahead of them. And they have a lot of winnable games on the schedule. Like, I would say, I mean, they have 8 games left. I would say 6 of them are, you're the more talented team, that's for sure. And you should feel good about winning those games.
Yeah.
So you still have a good amount of your season ahead of you. I don't think, if Tech loses this game, I'm not going to be like, that's it, Brent Pry's got to go now. I mean, don't get on the plane to Cali. But if they get blown out and they don't look interested, or if they look lethargic, that for me is a bigger worry than Miami just blitzing them out the gate.
I agree with that. But I'll say this too. If Miami does beat us, regardless of margin, they're losing to Cal next week.
Dude, I'm taking Cal no matter what.
I mean, if we win the game, say we beat Miami, don't take Cal. Mm-hmm. But if Miami beats us by any margin and they're 5-0 and feeling all good and they got to fly out to Cal's winning that game. I mean, we're on the same page.
That's just how the sport goes.
It does.
I don't make the rules.
All right, Colorado at UCF. This is the first game we're going to pick. These are on our pick 'em. UCF, huge favorites here, Sam.
Yeah.
14.5. Tell me what's going on with this. This is a stinky one.
UCF runs the ball really well. Colorado doesn't defend the run really well. I saw with a season projection model that I follow on Twitter, has Colorado losing out.
What?
Yeah. And
I feel like they played pretty well.
Yeah, and I have a good respect for what this guy does too. So he wouldn't put that out for clicks or anything. And that's the bounce house is a tough place to play. That's a long flight to a loud environment. UCF is running the ball really well.
Are you diving in?
I'm not touching a Colorado game with a 10-foot pole.
No, but you have to for the pick'em.
Oh yeah, sure. But I'll go Central Florida. 2 touchdowns.
I feel like I got to do. I'm diving into the stink. I'm doing it. This is what Patty C and Colby Dance say on the College Experience. Great show if you're looking for picks. Dive into the stink. UCF 14.5. Ohio State at Michigan State plus 25.5 at home for Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Michigan State a little bit yesterday and how good Jonathan Smith is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with what I've seen from Ohio State, and maybe I'm getting lured into a bad spot here, I'm taking Michigan State in the points.
Yeah, me too. 24.5 is a lot of points on a road game. And again, this is one of those games. Ohio State controls start to finish, dominate them, run the ball all over them, and still not cover the spread. And for me, I like taking the home dogs that the game can play out in that way. So I like Michigan State here.
Stanford at Clemson. Clemson, 21.5 point favorites at home in a classic ACC battle. Poor Stanford, dude. You got to go to the Dome. You get this great win. You got to fly home. Then you got to fly over to Clemson. That's insane.
Give me Clemson in this
one.
one.
It's Clemson all day.
Yep.
Illinois at Penn State. Big line here. Penn State, 17.5 point favorites. I got to take Illinois.
I'm taking Illinois. That's it's up to 18.5 in some places.
I don't understand. I guess I do understand in that they're banking on Illinois getting that big win and maybe coming down a bit. And Drew Aller, his quarterback rating is through the freaking roof. He's
played Bowling Green, Kent State, in a West Virginia defense.
Don't you besmirch your Falcons.
They're trying their hardest.
They are doing well. They are doing really well. But yeah, I'm taking Illinois in that one. Georgia, Alabama, big game of the weekend. Last one we're going to pick here. I thought about this one so much today, and I feel like I got to take Bama. With the new coach and everything that's gone down, I still think I got to take Bama.
Kalen DeBoer off a bye week as a home dog. Ooh, got to give me Alabama in that one. I will say for Georgia, I'm a little worried about their offensive line. They're not as dominant as they have been. And I'm a little bit worried they haven't learned how to call offensive plays without just being able to lean on that offensive line. And I think Bama's going to win this game outright and then trip up somewhere else.
Okay. I like it. Big games outside of the games we'll pick is Louisville and Notre Dame. I'm really excited to watch that one. OK State and K-State, Washington State at Boise. I'm super excited.
Crazy game.
And then the Liberty Bell. The Victory Bells, Sam, is what it's called. UNC and Duke.
Sure.
I think Duke's gonna get that one.
Give me UNC. Duke hasn't played anybody. I don't think Duke is very good offensively. Duke is.
What about the Wallace Wade home field advantage?
Yeah, how many teams score 50 and lose in regulation?
Not many, man.
Not many. And I feel like this is one of those games that physically UNC is just going to be a different animal than anything Duke has played this year. Duke has played one of the easiest schedules in college football through 4 weeks.
They really have. FSU and SMU will be fun, and then NIU at NC State. We talked a little bit about these on Monday. One thing I wanted to ask you, Sam, you said you've had a...
Really quick, did you remember Dave Doran coached at NIU?
That's true. He's the
one
one that...
2 MAC titles.
Jordan Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
completely forgot that.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they have the series. I don't know. When you are struggling in your picks, and you are picking your favorite plays of the week. This is not random games. You're picking things that you decide, I really like this pick, I'm going to go with it. And maybe your record isn't so good this year. I've found in years past that because we both love the sport and we both study the sport a lot, that sometimes being forced to pick the games I don't really want to pick, the overall knowledge, you'll end up winning games you didn't expect to win and losing the games you thought you had dead to rights.
It's funny you say that, because today I went through all the numbers kind of picks. Then I also just had like a little column that I just checked off. Does this pick match the vibes? And if it didn't match the vibes, I didn't take it. I needed it to match the vibes and the numbers. So I think I'm ironically kind of going towards that this week a bit.
Yeah.
There are some good vibes.
I would say, like,
out there.
Take a few games, add a few games to your card that you're like, I don't know if I feel great about it, but I'm going to pick it because I think I feel okay about it. And then add them, and then like you'll probably end up winning a couple of those, and the ones you love, like you'll lose those, but you might make up for it.
I'm also going a little bit aggressive on going money line instead of spread in games, bad team versus bad team, and just taking the plus money, like Louisiana Monroe plus 225 versus Troy, and FIU plus 120 at home money line against who the frick do they play? I forget. It's late. They play somebody.
FIU, did they just lose to Monmouth?
Yes, they did. Your point.
That's so crazy.
You think I don't know that? I mean,
that was so crazy.
Of course they're going to win this week. That's how it works.
The end of that game. Did you see the final play? Like, it was nuts.
No.
Yeah, you got to check that out.
They're playing Louisiana Tech. Just pulled it up.
FIU was going in for the score to win the game against Monmouth, and the guy got stopped, and then he fumbled it. I think that's what happened.
That's brutal.
And then the Monmouth players went absolutely nuts.
I mean, Pete, I'll tell you what. You don't just walk into Pitbull Stadium and come out with a win 2 weeks in a row. All right.
Not 2 weeks in a row. All right. That's going to do it for the pod. That was a lot of fun. Again, if you want more insight on Miami, check out College Football Monday. I cut it up so there's one in the live feed, which is the full show, and then just the Miami and Tech part is on our video feed. So whichever one you want to check out, we'd appreciate a like or a subscribe or whatever. And if you stayed with us till the end of the pod, the secret word is Shiner. So put Shiner in the comment.
Shiner.
We did get a Triceratops last night.
I saw that.
I'm hoping for an extra one. That was the secret word at the end of last night's show. But make sure you're subscribed to the Too Deep feed, to the Sons of Saturday feed, to the Sons of Saturday YouTube channel. We've gotten a lot of reviews on Spotify, so I appreciate that. We're up to like 50 some odd reviews, which is a really good number. And keep doing that. It's easy to do it. Just hit the 5-star and keep it moving. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.